everybody and welcome back to my channel. Happy September. I'm super excited. I love fall. I had a crazy reading month in August. I read 29 books and a novella. It was crazy. I traveled in August. I also did a lot of visiting my grandparents. So it was just kind of a chill month where I actually had time on like long plane rides and drives to actually like read a ton. I don't think I'm ever gonna have this crazy of a reading month again, especially since I start my full-time job in a couple of days. So I'm gonna be doing a master's program full-time and then also a 9 to 5. So it's gonna be insane. I'm probably not gonna have a ton of time for reading, but it's okay because I can slow down a little bit. My goal for reading was 50 books this year. I thought that was super ambitious, and then I hit the 50 mark in the summer, and then I set the goal of 100, and this month I did surpass that goal. So now my like goal for the entire year is 125 books, which I think is like absolutely insane and pretty realistic for me right now, which is crazy. So let's jump in and talk about the 30 books. I had a lot of successes this month, and then I also had some books that weren't as good, but that's to be expected when reading 30 books. So let's just jump into it. So I started the month off by reading the Chestnut Springs series, and I gotta say, I'm not usually a romance lover. I think that it can be kind of cringy sometimes, but oh my god, I don't know what was in this series, but it was so good. I rated all the books 4 stars except for the second one, which is Heartless. I rated that one 5 stars, and I can't get over it. I still think about it all the time. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be giving 5 stars to a book that was about a hot single dad and a nanny, I would think you were crazy, but it was literally so good. So these books are small town romances. All the characters, you see them in throughout all the books, which I love because it allows you to really connect with the characters, and they are small town romances. I just said that. They're kind of like cowboy romances. One of the guys is a bull rider. Actually, 2 of the guys are bull riders. They're sisters. It's just so good. It's really good. I think it gives like knock 'em out vibes, except the books are actually like an appropriate length. But I just love Chestnut Springs. I think if you're in the mood for a palette cleanser, they're on Kindle Unlimited as well, which I really like, and the 5th book comes out soon this year, so I'm super excited about it. I just had so much fun. I had so much fun reading this. Spice is not like super cringy, which is my problem a lot of the time in romance books. Something about these books they're just so good. If you're in the mood for small town romance, cowboy vibes, you are gonna love this series. Next up, I read If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan, and I read this book because first of all, it's also on Kindle Unlimited, and Sarah Corley here on YouTube loved that book. But I give this book 4.75 stars. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I love depressing, sad books, and that's what this is, a sad girl book. This book follows Finn and Autumn, and they grew up next door to each other, I think, and they just have this undeniable bond. They've seen each other, grew up with each other. I think that, especially from living in a smallish town, I felt that this book was so relatable almost in a way, because it touched on really relatable feelings that are like really sad, like falling in love with someone and knowing that you can never have them. Like, it's just sad. You know what's gonna happen at the beginning of the book. Like, the author does tell you what's gonna happen, so you're prepared for it, but also you just can't stop reading, and you just like are screaming at your book and wishing that things could turn out differently. It's just so sad. Like, I'm tearing up thinking about it. It's really good if you're in the mood for a sad girl book that's gonna make you feel all the things you want to feel. I recommend this book. It just felt so realistic to me, but I didn't give it 5 stars. I gave it 4.75 because I didn't love the ending. I felt like the events at the end were super rushed. So yeah, I just think that a lot of people can relate to this book in some way. So yeah, Next up, in my little book club that I have with my friends, we chose The Bliss List by Piper James, and this is on Kindle Unlimited, which is why we picked this book. But this book is also why we decided that for the future month, we can pick books that aren't on Kindle Unlimited, because I just did not like this book. None of us liked this book. I gave it 2 stars. It's a really generic romance. This book is about Charlie and Hunter. Charlie is just coming out of a divorce, so she's going on a self-love journey. There's a bunch of things that she's never felt confident about, so she's going to this resort to have a little self-love vacation, and it also follows Hunter, who is a country star singer, and he's getting out of a scandal, so he is just going undercover to just let everything die down, and the two meet and fall in love. As you could guess, it just was so generic to me. The writing was really generic. There was nothing that really stood out to me. It was short. If you're looking for something short and sweet, I guess this book wasn't horrible, but there was just nothing that made me be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna think about this book, because I haven't thought about this book at all since I read it. Then I read Done and Dusted, because I've been seeing this one everywhere, and I also loved the Chestnut Springs series, and this book, I don't even remember the character's name. The girl rides horses and she had an injury, and the guy helps her with it. It's also a small town. It was like short and cute and simple. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, so if you are looking for something that kind of gives you Chestnut Spring vibes, I would recommend Done and Dusted. I did give it a 3 stars. But yeah, nothing super amazing there, but it did only take me a couple of hours to read, so I do appreciate that. Then I was in England, so I went book shopping, and I bought 2 books. The first one was the Tom Felton Beyond the Wand, The Magic and Mayhem of Growing Up a Wizard. Okay, this book had been on my TBR for a long time. I've just never really picked it up, but I just saw it. I just saw it at the bookstore. I'm trying to remember what it's called in England. I can't think of it right now, but I saw this at the bookstore and I was like, holy crap, I need to get this book. Like, look at him. Also, I was a Draco stan growing up. Like, I still am. I still am in love with Draco. I just had to. And also, let me just say, this book was amazing. I know that a ton of people don't rate memoirs, autobiographies, but I just need to give this one 5 stars. All the stars in the world, because I love it. First of all, I love this. I just loved this book, and I cried throughout this book because he does go through some really hard things in his life, and I think that a lot of people didn't really see that when he was going through Harry Potter. His viewpoints on different things and different events that happened, and then going back and like looking at it now with his lens, which is really eye-opening for me. And so I have a lot of respect for him. I have a lot of respect for the way that he chooses to live his life now, even though he could have gone a lot of different paths. I just think that if you are a fan of Tom Felton, Draco, Harry Potter, you should read this book, because he gives you a lot of insights on other actors and actresses, and I don't know, I just loved it. Oh my god, I loved it. I want to read it again. I just love him so much, and there's some really cute pictures. This book is the reason why I will be rereading Harry Potter at some point, because I just have to now. So yeah, definitely if you're in the mood for an autobiography, you just loved Harry Potter, you are a Draco stan, you will love this book. Then the next book I read was Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, and I was recommended this book, so I bought it. I don't have it with me because I gave it to my grandma. She really wanted to read it. I gave this one 4.25 stars, because how could I not give it a 4 stars or above? This book, I don't even know how to describe it to you guys. It follows 3 generations of women in Korea and their relationships, and the way that that led into just the hardship of the lives that they led. It goes through so many different people's point of views. It's just really, really good. If you want a historical fiction book that's really, really gonna make you think a lot, like, it made me think a lot about people's lives that had nothing to do with mine, and really empathize with that, and I just feel so much better reading this book. So I really do recommend it. There is an Apple TV series with it that I think my grandpa was saying that he really enjoyed. So there's that. I might go ahead and watch this. But this one has a bunch of rewards, and I know why. I didn't rate it 5 stars because it was really emotionally taxing for me to read, and I didn't feel like it was the easiest thing for me to read. But it just, you pick it up and you know it's gonna be a great book. So it's definitely not for everyone. It's not one of those fun, fast page turners, but I feel like I learned a lot and I got a lot smarter by reading this book. So I do recommend that one. And after all like the romances and stuff that I read, I just needed something that would make me feel intellectual, and that one did it. Then I read After the End by Claire McIntosh. I just saw this on one of my grandpa's shelves and I was like, ooh, let me read it. I gave this one 4 stars. I had never ever in my life read a book that was like this. This one follows Max and Pip. They're a couple in a happy marriage. They have a son who had a lot of health issues, and they know that their son is going to die eventually, but it's a matter of, do we let him live out what little of his life that he has left in the best quality, or do we like give him all of these procedures and try to elongate his life even though he might suffer a little bit? And Max and Pip both really morally disagree with each other, and it causes turmoil in their relationship, so much so that they end up going to court over it, and we find out what happens. After the court trial, this book takes a really interesting turn. It follows 2 different path lines. So one path line follows what would have happened if Max won, and one plotline follows what would have happened if Pip won, and you never really find out what actually happened, but it is just so interesting. I just had such a good time reading this. Again, it's a really heavy subject matter, but one that I think that happens more often than we think it does, and we just never talk about it. So I actually really like that book. I haven't heard anybody talk about it, but it was great. I just think that just the way the book was structured was really, really interesting. So I did like that. Then, because my best friend requested it, I read Mile High and The Right Move, part of the Windy City trilogy, I think it's gonna be. The 3rd book hasn't come out yet. And I gave Mile High 3 stars and The Right Move 4 stars. These are just sports romances, and I didn't really love Mile High. I gotta be honest with you, I was just bored throughout the whole thing, and there's just one like reoccurring theme with the female. I don't want to like give it away. That just kind of annoyed me. I didn't really love it, but I can tell why people love it. And then The Right Move was better. Ryan Shea, which is the guy in the book, I'm in love with him. I'm in love with him. I would marry him. I understand why my best friend loved this book so much and gave it 5 stars. And they're both on Kindle Unlimited, so if you're in the mood for sports romances, they're not bad. They really aren't bad. I will not be reading the 3rd book because it just doesn't interest me. They were okay, and they didn't take me super long to read. Next, I was having enough of the romance, so I read The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden, both on Kindle Unlimited. I read both of these books in a day, both books in a day, because that's how good it was. I was like on the edge of my seat. I did give The Housemaid 4 stars. It's more like a 4.25, 4.5. I just couldn't give it 5 because it was so short. It was just so good. So this one is about a girl who becomes a housemaid, a full live-in housemaid, and then things just keep on going wrong. The couple that she is housemaid for is just like really weird, and things start to take a turn. The plot twist was good. I did not see it coming, although once it happened I was like, dang it, I should have seen it coming, but I didn't see it coming. It was good. If you're looking for a short thriller, I would recommend that. The second one, The Housemaid's Secret, still follows the same main character, which I think is really interesting for a thriller series. It was good. It wasn't amazing, which is why I gave it 3 stars. But The Housemaid, the first one, is really, really good. So I highly recommend. Then I read By a Thread by Lucy Score. I rated that one 3 stars because it was just so dang long. I just got bored. I got so bored like in the middle there. This one followed Dominic and Allie, and you know what, now that I'm like getting myself back in the mindset of when I was reading this. It was good. It was a fun time to read, but it was just too long. It's the Grumpy Sunshine. Allie ends up working for Dominic, and that's an interesting little dynamic. I love his mom in the book, but it was just too long. But it's on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm currently reading Lucy Score's newest book, which is the third book in the Knock 'Em Out series, Think We Hide in the Light, and I am loving that book. I think it's on track to be a 5 stars, but we'll see, because the books are just so dang long. I don't know why she makes them so long. Then I read Travis by Mia Sheridan. Okay, I knew I wasn't gonna like it, so I don't know why I tried to like it, but Travis is a horrible character in Archer's Voice, and if you know me, you know I love Archer's Voice. I gave that book 5 stars. Amazing book. I hated Travis, but I decided to give him a try, and oh my god. The reason why this is not a 1-star read for me is because if I read this book not reading Archer's Voice first, it would have been like a 4 or 5 stars, because, you know, I kind of like Travis in the book, and that's why I just couldn't get with it, because I just didn't see how I could root for Travis, and it ruined the whole book. I'm not even gonna explain it, because if you read Archer's Voice, don't read Travis. It's not good. It's really not good. Then, speaking of a waste of my time, I read the rest of the Poppy War Trilogy, which is The Dragon Republic and The Burning God. These books are so long. I love Ara Kwong. I just have to read Babel, and I've read her entire backlist, so that's gonna be like a part of my fall reading. Let me tell you something. I love the Poppy War Trilogy. Like, in love, die hard, favorite fantasy series until the last page, and I literally threw The Burning God across my room, and I was like, oh wait, I need to go pick this up because it's a library book and I can't damage it. But it was just thinking about the ending of this trilogy honestly like makes my blood boil, because I feel like it's the easy way out. Not to spoil anything, but I really feel like it could have ended better. Like, it could have been better, because I was so emotionally drained from this series. This is high stakes fantasy war. It makes me feel so much smarter reading this book, just because she's such an intelligent woman. And listen, I did give The Dragon Republic 5 stars. I had a great time. That book was amazing. So good. And the last book was really good too, up until the end, and I was like, ah! But I just fell in love with all the characters, even though I feel like all the characters were so intricately written. I think about it all the time. But if you want to read a fantasy series where you've read other fantasies before, because I don't think this is a starter fantasy trilogy. It's definitely harder to understand for sure. But if you want something that involves war and just so much politics, there's not a ton of romance. It's like a little subplot that I love, but it's not like romance. I would recommend this series, but also just know that you're in for a lot, because the books are thick and it's really emotionally taxing. Then my sister begged me to read Where the Forest Meets the Stars, so I did that, and I gave it 3 stars. It was a good book. It was good. My sister loved it. She gave it like 6 stars out of 5. It was good, but it wasn't like amazing. This book is basically about a child that shows up to this woman's cabin out of the blue and claims that she's from some fantasy world, and she claims that she's a magical child, and once she witnesses 3 miracles, she'll go back to her realm. And the woman is like, what the heck, where did the child come from? She's obviously lying to me. And it's about her like trying to find the child's home, but also the child ends up living with her, and so many like magical things actually do end up happening once the child lives with her. But the whole book you're trying to decide if this book is actually like a fantasy and it had some sort of fantasy element to it, or if the girl like made everything up. And it's really interesting. It is heartbreaking at the end. I did have a good time reading it, but I haven't thought about it since I read it, so that's why it was 3 stars. Then I read the Natural series because everyone and their mother was talking about it. So I have these 2 books from the library. They're the last 2. I love this series. So it's about a group of teenagers who got recruited by the FBI to solve cold cases because they're really good at certain things. One girl's really good at telling people if they're lying or not. A couple people are really good at profilers, and another kid is really good at reading emotion. So they solve these cold cases for the FBI, and it's really good. Really, really good. This series is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, who wrote the Inheritance Games trilogy, and I actually like The Naturals better, even though she wrote it first. I think it's really interesting that people like love the Inheritance Games so much and not so many people know about The Naturals, but I think The Naturals is like her best work. So good. The books are short chapters, easy to read. There is a love triangle, but it doesn't get super annoying. Like the one in the Inheritance Game pissed me off, but this one actually didn't bother me as much. I also read the novella, 12. Really good. Get that one 3 stars. The series as a whole, the 5 stars. Really loved it. Really good. I think it tied up really, really well. Each book follows like a mystery. Also, you follow the characters' like own personal mysteries, and I think it's really, really good. The last 2 were so good, out of this world, jaw on the floor, so good. So 5-star series, but each book was like a 4, 4.5, just because they were so like YA and really fast paced. But I just have a lot of love for this series. Really good for this time of year. Highly recommend. Next up, I read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. Now, I don't know if I pronounced her name properly, so sorry if I butchered it, but I love her. I love her previous books. I remember like years and years ago writing her an email and like crying when she responded to me. But I haven't read a book by her in a while because she doesn't have a ton of books out, but I read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride because a lot of people on YouTube rave about it, and it was good. I gave it 4 stars. It's a very magical, whimsical book, and her writing is absolutely beautiful, and it's just, the ending of this book, I was like, whoa. I'm just gonna read what's on Goodreads because I just don't know how to describe it. So, a gothic-infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship cursed to end in tragedy, and the danger of believing in fairy tales. It's her adult debut. That's basically what it's about. It's about this guy who married this woman and then finds out a bunch of secrets about his wife and how his wife grew up, and he's like, whoa, this is weird. But it's honestly really good, and the ending is really, really good. I haven't read something super whimsical like that since The Night Circus, and The Night Circus didn't have as much like plot as that one, and I read it in one sitting. So 4 stars, really, really good. Then I read a book that I just didn't like, and that was Alone with You in the Ether. I don't know why it says 3 stars on Goodreads. I changed that to 2 stars. It was 2 stars. It was really confusing. I didn't have a good time reading it, and I think that you should save your time. This book does follow a woman with mental illness, and I don't know if it makes people feel seen. If it does, that's really, really great. For me, I just couldn't connect, and I just don't remember much about the story because I blocked it from my mind. So I haven't read any of her other books. I do want to give them a try, but I'm kind of scared too. So there's that. Next, I read a book called Shark Heart by Emily Habeck. I don't know. But I read this book to make fun of it because it's about a couple, and the guy gets a diagnosis that he's turning into a great white shark. Like, what? So I got this book from the library and ended up rating it 5 stars. Guys, this book was so good. So good. For such a weird plot line, it was just too good. It was just so good. I've never read a book like that. It wasn't really written as like one continuous story. It was written in moments, and every chapter was like a page, half a page, so it went by really, really fast. And the writing is just so beautiful, and yes, it's about really unconventional things that like just don't happen in real life. The emotions that this book will bring out of you is insane. It was just so insanely good. It was so good. I was sobbing at this book. Just like literally sobbing at this book. I got it from the library, and I will be getting a copy of it because it's just so good. It was so good, guys. Like, read Shark Heart. I know it sounds hilarious, but it was really good. You have to allow yourself to just be with it in the moment and not think about how hilarious it is. Like, the concept of it. Because I wanted to make fun of it, but I just couldn't. It was just so good. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful, and I really related to the characters in this book, which is probably why I was a sobbing mess at the end. Next, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I did watch the movie first, and then my best friend was like, you have to read the book. It's so much better. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay. And you know what? I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3 stars, leaning more towards the 3.5, just because it was too long. It was way too long of a book. Like, it didn't need to be this long. I didn't love the politics in this book, and I think that like half of that could have been left out. Like, I'm here for the romance, okay, not for the politics. But we all know what this is about. Of course, it's better than the movie. I really did enjoy it. If you don't know what it's about Alex, who is the son of the president of the United States, falling in love with Henry, who is a prince. And I love this one. I had a lot of fun with it, but 3.5 at most, but I love the cover. It's just so fun. Then I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the prequel to The Hunger Games, and there's a movie coming out in October, so that's why I read the book. And I liked it. I gave it a 3 stars. I really think that the author was clever with the way that she made Snow a villain, because it gave him a lot of depth to it. I do think the book could have ended after the Hunger Games and that book was over. I don't think it needed the rest of it. That's why I gave it 3 stars, because the book was panning out to be like a 4-star read. I was really into it until the Hunger Games ended, and it kind of like took a turn that I just wasn't so into. But I'm really excited to see how it all translates on screen. If you know that you're going to be watching the movie and you're a Hunger Games fan, I would recommend this book. I did have a good time reading it. It was kind of long. It was pretty good. Then the last book I read of the month was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, and I gave this book 4 stars. I really did enjoy this book. I understand why there was so much hype around it. It was written really, really well, really easy to understand, and I think a lot of different people will like this book. It follows a chemist named Elizabeth and kind of her life and her loves, and she ends up having a child, and it's just really good. It's just a really good literary fiction and romance kind of book. If you like Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, I think you would really like this book. It like kind of runs in the same genre, I would say, but it was a really good book. I will say I was kind of bored at the end, which is why it wasn't a 5 stars, because it was panning out to be a 5-star read until like the last 50 to 100 pages, and I was like, no, it was kind of long. But Lessons in Chemistry was a good one. I also don't think I'm going to be thinking about it for that long of a time. I just like remember feeling really good vibes from it, so that's also why it's not 5 stars for me, but I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. Especially if you don't read a lot. I think a lot of different people would like this book. So good book to buy for like Christmas. Now that we're in the fall months, I can start thinking about my Christmas gifts. Anyways, this video was way longer than I intended it to be. I thought I could do it. I thought I could make this video short, but next month. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.